This year is going to be for the Talmidim of Yeshiva Dale of Miami, but it's also for anybody else who wants to join. It's going to be about the Inyan of Mechiras Chometz. What we're going to discuss is the Inyan of some of the details in the game Mechiras Chometz, what it is and how we do, but not all the details. Obviously, a lot of things we will not mention. We're just going to go through many general ideas. First, we're going to talk about the Seder Ishtalshelis Hadvarim, how it all started, and where does this come from? Because in the Gemara, we don't find that. In the Gemara, we find just two things: Dike and Bittul, as I'll explain in a moment, and the Mechiras Chometz became, as I'll explain later, further on, became many generations later. We know that Chometz is the only Isser, besides Avodah Zarah, that Osir Bal Yirah Bal Yamotza, which means you can't own Chometz on Pesach. The way to not have Chometz on Pesach, the Torah gave us two options. The Torah, this is Mechiras, you could or do Biur, destroy it, which means you got to do Tikeh, look for it, find it, and destroy it, so you don't Chometz on Pesach. Or you could do Bittul, you could be Mevatel it, which is a Machlekes Rashi and Tosfos. How does Bittul work? According to Rashi, Bittul works because that's Tashbisa, that's a mental Tashbisa, mental destruction. According to Tosfos, it's Hefker, you mafkir it. But that's the way to do it. So if a person is Mabal Chometz, which nowadays we're saying Chol Chamiro, then the Chometz is not yours on Pesach. And the Torah says that you're only over on Chometz, Bal Yirah, Bal Yamotzi, if it's yours. But if you Mabal it, it's not yours, or it's not, doesn't exist mentally, it's not there. Whichever way, Lepel, this is one of the ways to get rid of Bal Yirah, Bal Yamotzi. But the Rabbanan said that it's not enough, you got to do both. Not enough to do just one. Midaraisa, the Gemara uses the Lashon Midaraisa with Bittul Baal Masagi. You could just be Yetzer with Bittul, and that's it. You could have Chometz all around, but you're Mevatel, you're not able Bal Yirah, Bal Yamotze. And the Inyan of Dike is only with the Rabbanan. Rabbanan, that's Ruchel of Dike. The Rabbanan said that you have to look for it and find it and destroy it. But Midaraisa, you could do either one. But the Rabbanan said no. You must be Mevatel it, you also must destroy it. And the Gemara and the Meforshim, the Poskim, we're going to the reason why the Chachamim said both things. But that's the only way to get rid of the Chometz. What happens if you have a lot of Chometz? A lot of Chometz before Pesach. So the Eitzah was to sell it to a Goy. Like the Gemara says in the Mishnah says in the second Perek, Kol Shosha Muter Lechel. As long as you're allowed to eat it, Mechel L'Nochri, you're allowed to sell it to a Goy. And the Gemara says that, what does that mean? As long as you're allowed to have a noah from it, you could still sell it to a goy. And if you sell it to a goy, fine, you could sell all your chametz to a goy, so you don't lose any money. Actually, the Gemara the Gemara brings a story that there was a person who had chametz that belonged to somebody else, and the chametz Pesach was coming, the guy didn't come to pick it up. So when it came to the 5th hour, I think what the rebbe said, go out and sell it to the street, sell it to the goyim, and then you'll have the money and you'll save the person the loss of the chametz, because otherwise you'll have to destroy it. But this is really, when you sell it completely and it stays sold. That's no shaila. But we also find that there is a concept of selling the chametz, even though you have a mind to get it back after Pesach. It's all basically on Tesefta. Tesefta Psochim Perik Beis Halacha Vov, which is also brought down in the Rosh and Tur Shulchan Aruch, Siman Tov Mem Chesed Gimel, Al Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, also Tov Mem Chesed Vov. They bring this is not exactly the Lashon, but the way it's written in Tesefta is like this. Yisrael v'goy show you boy in the there was a Yid and a Goy who were going on a ship, and Pesach is coming, and the trips used to take weeks, months, and if Pesach is coming, you got to get rid of all your chametz. So what are you going to do after Pesach? You're going to need chametz again. What are you going to do? So the Tesefta says that meicheli nachri a neisim matone. You could sell it to a Goy or give it away to a Goy as a present, and after Pesach you'll buy it back from him. And he says, as long as you really give it to him, it's not just something that you're doing for a game, but you really have to give it to him as a real matana, then you could give it to him l'chatchila with the intentions of buying back. But this seems to be only like a special, unusual case if you're going on a ship, not a Seder HaRogel. But we find also another thing there. It says like this, Rasha Yisrael Leimel Enochri, a Yid is allowed to say to a Goy, when you're buying your chametz, you want to buy a chametz worth $100 a month, buy for $200, and I'm telling you, after Pesach, I'm going to buy it for you. And the Rabbeinu Meneach and the Rambam explains that the case is that the person was going on a trip out of Pesach, and he wanted to take food that should be for after Pesach, but he can't have chametz on Pesach. So this is what you do. You tell the guy, you buy a lot of chametz, more than you need, and I promise you after Pesach I'll buy it from you. So it's the same idea that you're allowed to do it after Pesach. And the Chassam Sofer says there is no problem because you're really selling it. And you can tell him that you are selling in the chametz now, but you're promising him that you're going to take it back after Pesach. Now the Rosh, when he quotes the Tosefta, he says, maybe Shemoi, maybe I'll buy back after Pesach. But the Bach brings the Aguda, which doesn't give us the word Shemo, and he's saying clearly, I'm telling you, I'm going to buy back the chametz after Pesach. Now, even though it seems like this is also a case when you are going in a ship, that you basically, that it's a shas adchak, you have no choice, but it's not that. It's not that. The reason he mentioned it because that's the simple case that it's possible for this to happen, but not that this is a diuk and only in such a case. And therefore, the Tur in Siman Tov Mem Ches brings the din without the Hakdama of the ship. And the Alter Rebbe does it the same thing there, what you mentioned before, in Siman Tov Ches, he brings also the same din without mentioning the idea of a ship. Now, the question is that, how is he Kenya the Chometz? How is he Kenya the Chometz? So, one of the things is that we're going to explain in a moment how we're Kenya the Chometz. But Be'emes, the Ritva says, the Ritva says it's only if you don't make a harame here. And the Rebbe Yerucham says that, because that's what they're geiros in the Tosefta. The Tosefta means that it's only if you do it once. To do it every year, a seder like that, you're not allowed to. Adrabi says you would cancel a person for doing that. But the Beis Yosef asks, and the Beis Yosef holds that you could do it every year. And he says probably what they meant is that you can't sell it al tnai. You can't sell it on condition that I'll buy it back. That you cannot do. But to sell it as a mechira gemura and then you tell him I'm going to buy it back, that's okay. And actually, the Trumas Hadeshen, he made this mesak in this, and the Shulchan Aruch Erachaim Siman in Tokum Ches Sip Gimel, it says you're allowed to do it, and that's what the Alter Rebbe also passes. And actually, that's what people did for many years. From the years of, we say, from Reish to Tov Kuf Nun, this is what they would do. If a person had a lot of chametz, he would sell it to a goy or give it a goy as a present, and then after Pesach would buy it back. So there was no loss. He had the chametz. So this started the idea of selling the chametz with the idea of buying it back. But there's another problem here. In Shulchan Aruch it says that you have to take the chametz out of your reshus. If you're selling in the chametz, you have to take it out of the reshus. That's what the Trumas Hadeshen writes. And what's the reason bepash this? Because if you're going to keep the chametz of the goy in your house, you get into a lot of shilas. There are shilas if you have a goy's chametz in your house, if it's called with achrayas, with other achrayas, and if you makabel achrayas, you're able to bal yamotze. But mele the eitzah is take it out and it's not in your reshus, so you have no shilas. And you're going to get it back. You're going to buy it back. And the truth is, if the guy doesn't want to sell it back, it's too bad. You can't do anything about it because you really sold it to him. But what would be if a person has a lot of chametz? So you can't take it out of your house and give it to him, and then you'll buy it back and bring it back. That all started when they even started going into the brewery business of making beer and making mashke, which is all chametz, and they had storages full of that. So what are they going to do when it comes Pesach? They're going to sell it to the goy, let's say, but the goy has to take it out, we said, from your reshus. How can they take it out, all this from your reshus? So the Bach was the one that dealt with it, and he said, you know what, when you sell him the mashke, which is the chametz, sell him the mokim also, that the place becomes his. But maybe it's actually laying in his reshus. And actually, the Taz of the Magam Rom, right? The Taz writes that Bemis, you don't even have to sell it to him. You could be yichad lebayis. If you make a special, you give him away, you tell him, this in this corner is yours, this in this room is yours for yours. That's called the reshus of the goy, and you're allowed to. That's what the Gemara says in Psochim Davov Amadalov. And when it says in other poskim that you should take it out, it means you can't leave it in your house. But if you give him a corner, then you're allowed to do it. That's what they learn. Then you're allowed to do it. Okay. But the problem is that you have to have the goy pay for it. Where are you going to find a goy that's going to pay for all the chametz, knowing that he's going to have to sell it back? Not he's going to have to, but he knows that's what's going to happen. So where do you have a goy that's going to pay for those chametz? Because in order to sell it, you have to get all the money from him. So how's it going to work? So that's what he made, that the goy only gives a little bit, and that's only a deposit. So let's say you sell it to him for $1,000, he gives you a deposit of $20, and the rest, we'll see, he owes you. So really, a goy would do that. He would just give you a deposit. Now, if he gives you a deposit, and that's how he's kenyan the chometz. But how is he kenyan the chometz? Which kenyan is he making to be kenyan the chometz? Now, normally you could be kenyan with Meshicha, you be kenyan Bagbo. There are certain things you could do, but here the chometz is big. And how is he kenyan the chometz? So he's kenyan with the money that he's paying you. But we know that metaltalin, you cannot be kenyan with kesef. But it's not so poshut l'gabei goy. There's a machlokes whether between Rasha and Rabbi Tam, whether a goy is kenyan metaltalin with kesef or not. A yid is not kenyan metaltalin with kesef. Machlokes Rabbi Yechanan and Shlokish, if it's medraiser medrabanan, but l'peil a goy, a yid cannot be kenyan metaltalin with kesef. Only karka you're kenyan with kesef shtar v'chazokir. But a yid is not kenyan metaltalin with kesef. But a goy, there is a svara that the goy is kenyan. Now, even if you hold that the goy is kenyan with Meshicha, some hold that only with Meshicha goy is kenyan when you pose it, not with kesef. But if you can do Meshicha, let's say it's a case you can't, like we're talking about now. So some of the Achrayim write that everyone agrees that kesef helps. But for sure, there's a mandoma that says that if Meshicha is kenyan by Yid, bin Atayra, whatever it is, a goy is kenyan with kesef. Another thing is a svara, and it's accepted that if you make a condition with the goy lechatchila that you're maknet to him the metaltalin because he should be kenyan with kesef, many hold that this kinyan kesef helps by the goy also. Now, the way the Trumas Hadeshen writes that you sell it to him, he says the lotion that you sell it to him the dovar mu'et. You sell it to him for a little bit. From the Trumas Hadeshen is mashman that you don't even have to give a deposit. He gives you a little bit of money, and with that he is kenyan. But many other poskim hold that this looks like a harama, looks like it's cheap, looks like you're just making a joke like. So therefore, you have to pay the whole money. But how do you pay the whole money? He's not going to give you the whole money, so he gives you a deposit, and on the rest, he says, I owe you the money. The rest I owe you. Later on, when I get this, I will get the scheda of this, I will pay. That's what they used to do. Now, in addition to that, to selling the goy with the kesef, that he pays the money for the chometz, and he gives you a deposit for the rest, we also make a document with the goy. What's the purpose of the document? Because it looks like a harome, sof kosov, it looks like he's paying you a drop a little bit, and then he doesn't give you the rest of the money. So the whole thing looks like it's a joke. So even though he's kainem in halacha, but in order it shouldn't look like a haram, it looked like a joke. So therefore they said, write a shtar also. Now we know shtar is not kainem metaltalin. So the shtar doesn't work for the kinyan. But nevertheless, there are a few reasons why they made it. It should be also with a shtar. 3 reasons. Number 1, it shouldn't look like a joke. That's number 1. And number 2, as we're going to explain soon, or as we mentioned before, that you're also giving him the place where the chometz is laying, or renting him the place that we do now that the chometz is laying. And that's one of the ways that he's kind of the chometz also, that since you're renting him or giving him the karka, the land, the place, there's a din of kinyan agav, that the person who wants to be kind of metaltalin together with karka, make a kinyan on the karka, automatically the metaltalin becomes his. So here also, if you're renting him or you're selling him the karka, the mokim on which the chometz is laying, agav zeh is kind of that. And for the karka, shtar helps. So that's one of the reasons also why we give a shtar, because we want that the shtar should work for the karka today in order to help the kinyan of so we give the karka, we're selling him or renting him the karka for 2 reasons. Number 1, because we want that it should not be in our reshus, the chometz should be in his reshus. And also we use this as another kinyan to be kinyan the chometz, that is kinyan the chometz, agav the karka, that's the din that you're kinyan. So that's the reason. And the Alter Rebbe Taka writes that you should, in the Shulchan Aruch, he writes in Sifut Beis, you should write the shtar mechira. In other words, you sell mechira, and he says, "She'ein hanoch rikeina karka loy bekesef bilvad v'loy bechazokya lo b'shtar im hakesef." Alter Rebbe says, "A goy is keina, even karka is keina with the shtar im kesef." So we write the shtar to help the karka, and b'meila we're keina the metaltalin agav karka. So we write the shtar, like we said, for these 2 reasons. Number 1, it shouldn't look like tlula. It's more official, so maybe we know it's a real kinyan. Also, we said because this is a way to be kinyan the karka. And the 3rd thing, because legally a shtar makes a kinyan, and there is such a thing as a kinyan that's legally not. There are certain kinyanim which we know we find in the poskim that's not a kinyan of the Torah. But nevertheless, if people make up that by doing this there's a kinyan, that makes a kinyan. L'moshel, there is a kinyan of a handshake called a tkiyas kaf. What do we find in the Torah? A handshake, a tkiyas kaf is a kinyan. But since that's the minig asochrim, it becomes a kinyan. Goes to mutter, there's a kinyan. They used to make another thing. They used to have it. They made a siman on a barrel. That was a kinyan. And we find nowadays also there are certain kinyanim that are made. They say, I think, in the Diamond District, that if you make a deal and you give a handshake, I think, and you say brucha v'atzlucha or something like that, that's a kinyan, and you're obligated to keep it. Whatever, I don't know exactly, but there are kinyanim which we know of the halacha that are kinyanim that the Welt made. So since alti legally the shtar is a kinyan, the mela you give a shtar. That's one another reason to give a shtar. And this is how they used to do it for many years. Many years that they had a lot of chometz. So what they used to do, they used to give the shtar, they used to give the kesef, and they used to everything that we said before. Every individual did it. Every individual had a shtar and had to deal with a goy and did all these things with the goy. And the son of the native Yehuda in the Sefer Shira Sian writes, this thing that you sell the chometz to a goy and you sell him by him paying for it. How is he paying for it? He's giving you a deposit of whatever amount he gives, and the rest he owes you. That's the lashon you write. Hashar zokavol v'milva, he owes the rest. And that's side for the chometz and side for the karka. He gives you a down payment for the karka also, for the place that he's renting, and everything seems to be good. The chometz is not in the reshus of a yid because he rented or bought the karka. The metaltalin, the chometz is kind through the kesef that he's giving, as we said, and also through the agav karka. Everything is fine. So then so we have this. But there are others that hold that really this is not such good kinyonim, but the reason it works, I'll give an example that Mechiras writes, that since we said before, and we know that midaraisa v'bitl bal masagir, that midaraisa bitl works, elamai, why do we want to get rid of it is because midarabonon. So it's only a midarabonon. Basically, the fact that we want to get it out of the house and we want to get rid of it is a din darabonon. Because midaraisa yiravatl, or a din darabonon, we're makel to small kinyonim, even though the kinyonim are not so strong. But Al Rebbe in Hilchas Mechiras Chometz writes that you can't say that selling the chometz is not for the chometz that you're mevatel, because you're not mevatel. The chometz you're selling, you're not mevatel. You're planning to buy it back after Pesach, so you're not mevatel it. So you can't say that's the reason why it's a kinyan. It really must be a real kinyan. Actually, the Chassam Sofer even writes that how could you say that the chometz that you're selling you're mevatel? If you're mevatel it, how could you sell it? And if you're selling it, how do you can mevatel it? And you can't say, he says it's a big deicha to say, it doesn't make sense to say that first you sell it before you mevatel it, and then you're mevatel it, and then the mechira is chal, because the mechira is only chal what they say because you're mevatel, but you weren't mevatel yet. But how could you sell it? So first you sell it, then you're mevatel it. Now that you're mevatel it, the sale is chal. It's mod nazach. So akapon, the bottom line is these are real kinyonim, and the kinyonim make it that the chometz is sold, and the place is sold, or as way we do now, we rent it, and that's why the chometz works. But there were some that had problems with this. Why? Because if it's a real sale, you have to pay sales tax. And actually, there was some in a certain country that some came and were massed to the government that the Yidden are selling a lot of things and selling ganze stores and ganze storages of mashke and things like that, and they don't pay sales tax. So the king answered that it's not really a sale; it's only a religious act. But mainly they don't have to pay taxes. So came certain rabbanim like the Baruch Frankel, and he said, so we see clearly it's not a real sale. That even the government assumed that it's not a real sale. That's why you didn't have to pay tax. But Chassam Sofer writes, it's not a problem. The bottom line is that the shtar is a kosher shtar. The bottom line is that it's a real sale, even according to the government. In Din Malchusa. Elamai, he knows they're going to buy it back. Well, what can happen if the guy doesn't want to sell it back, or he doesn't want to come and buy it back? The sale will be a sale, and you will have to pay the sales tax. So it's not that you don't pay because it's not, because they know you're going to buy it back, so it's only a short while that it's sold, but not because the sale is not a sale. And that answers that. Then you have other zaitik, small shilas. If you sell everything and you sell your kelim, so the kelim belong to a goy. Why shouldn't you have to table your kelim after you buy it back after Pesach? So therefore, the native Yehuda and the Chassam Sofer write that you should not sell the kelim. You should sell the chometz on the kelim, but not the kelim. And the Shara Kelil says that that's pshat in the Alter Rebbe's lashon in the Shtar Mechira. And the Rebbe said the Mechilas Chometz of my Zayde, the Shara Kelil of the Rebbe's Zayde. He said, but that's not the pshat in the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe says that you do sell the kelim. The shaila is if you sell the kelim, so why don't you have to Tevelitz, the Rebbe is Mechadesh Chidish Nifla, that the union of Tevel and Kalim is connected to the potential, since it belonged to a Goy, it had potential of being a leia, of absorbing treif iser in the Kalim. That's why you have to Tevel it. It brings it out from Arasha. So the Fizeh, the Rebbe says, in the case where he never got the chometz and it was in your house still, even though halachically it belonged in his shoes, laying in his shoes, but when Ma'aseh L'Peil, it was no potential, and therefore you don't have to table it. So according to us, we don't have to table it. And that's how the Rebbe learns, and that's how the Rebbe paskins. And the Lashon Dal Rebbe is actually mashma like that it is because of the you are selling the keli also from the Alter Rebbe, the way he says in Lashon Yishar Mechira. And again, this is the way everyone did his own Mechira. But since a lot of complications here, a lot of details that you have to know, not every Yid knew what to do. So what they did was they made that you should sell it to the Rov. All the Yidden from the city will sell it to the Rov, and the Rov knows what he's doing, and then the Rov is going to sell it all to the Goy. And actually, the Rabbeim by us still did it. The Rebbe, all the Rabbeim, they sold it to the Rov. They didn't sell it. They sold it to the Rov himself. But by others, what happened was they changed it. That you sign a document or you tell the Rov that you're making him a shliach. So you have a shtar harshoy, you have a shtar which you are making the Rov a shliach to sell for you. So that's different. So you're not selling it to the Rov. Because why should the Rov have that achrais? All the chometz is sold to the Rov. If chas v'sholem, the sale to the Goy doesn't work, then all the Isser chometz is on the Rov's head. Why should you want to do it? But anyway, but the bottom line is that you sell it to you don't sell it to the Rov. You give all the way it's now done. You sign or they write down on a shtar that you are making the Rov a shliach, and the Rov is a shliach to be able to sell it for you. But there were some people who had kindness. The Sholem Moshe, the Sholem Natan's son, wrote that that's not good. And what's his taina? His taina that he wrote is, actually, Rav Shlomo Kluger was arguing with him. The shaila that he wrote was like this. Number one, how could the Rov sign as a shliach in the name of others? How could he be the shliach to sign? But it's not understood what the shaila is. If you add the shtoris, you have ashtar hashoah. So ashtar hashoah, you can make somebody a morshe, calling somebody who should be able to do dealings for you, and you're allowed to sign for him. But the second shaila was when you give a deposit, which is a small amount of money, and the Rov has so much chometz that he's selling, worth much, much more than this. There's not a prute for each person. If you have 1,000 people and you give the deposit is $100, you don't have a prute for each one of the people. And in order to make a kinyan kesed, you have to have a prute for the person that's making it. And the deposit doesn't have a prute. So the answer is, you don't need a prute for everyone. Because it's shutfi. It's one sale. So one prute for each sale is one prute. This is all one sale. Even though the Gemara says in Kedushin, that we just learned in Kedushin, that if you mekadesh two bones, if someone gives Kedushin to a person, two people give Kedushin to a person, that we both want to marry your two daughters, and one person gives they make a shliach, one person, and he gives the father of the two daughters a prute to be mekadesh, both daughters for the two people, for the two sons, let's say. The Kedushin is not Kedushin, you have to have a prute for each one. So why is here different? We say that you don't need a prute for each one. The answer is very simple, because there, it's two people. There are two girls, two daughters. So you need a prute for each Kedushin. Here it's all one mechira. It's all one mechira from them all. That's what it is. And besides that, the pearl, you say that you owe the rest of the money. So we can't only count the money that you gave. We have to count the whole money that he owes you. Now, especially according to the Alter Rebbe, who says you have to have an Or of Kabbalah. This is what we're going to go into the sheet of the Alter Rebbe, that why you need an Or of Kabbalah. But if you have an Or of Kabbalah, just before I explain that Or of Kabbalah means that L'Peil Mamish, the guy got paid the whole money. Actually, if you look in the Lashon Alter Rebbe, you're right that Nishtar, that the Yid, got paid up to the last penny. And then he says, how? Certain amount I got cash as a deposit, and the rest I got a document from the Or of Kabbalah that he's responsible for the rest. What's an Or of Kabbalah? An Or of Kabbalah is not a regular order. A regular order means a guarantor. I lend somebody money, and Reuben lends Shimon money, and then Levi guarantees the money. What is the pshat? That I go to Shimon to ask for the money to be paid. If Shimon doesn't have any money to pay or doesn't want to pay, then I can go to Levi. Or of Kabbalah means I can go l'chatchila to the Orev. Order of means he takes upon himself that he's going to pay. So if Reuven lends him the money, and the Levi is out of Kabbalah, I go lechatchila to Levi and say, you pay me. So basically, I have this connection to the Or of Kabbalah. So the Alter Rebbe says that in order for this kinyan to work, you ought to have an Or of Kabbalah. And I'll explain soon why, but if you have an Or of Kabbalah, certainly you can't say that there's less than a pruta for each one, because he got paid all money. So if you sell Chometz, like in a big city nowadays, you sell Chometz, the Chometz could be worth $100,000 for the people, $1 million, who knows what they have there. And the Or of Kabbalah takes responsibility, then you got paid the whole money. So you got all money. Now, what is the reason for the Alter Rebbe? Why do we need an Or of Kabbalah? So the Alter Rebbe doesn't explain why he has it, why he needs an Or of Kabbalah. He writes that he wrote a kuntras miyuchad, a special kuntras, but we don't have it. The ones that explain the Alter Rebbe Shita is the Alter Rebbe's brother, the Sheiras Yehuda, the Maril, and the Tzemach Tzedek. And this is what they say. They say that according to some Rishonim, if Ayel was not Azuzeh, Zokaf al Bamilva doesn't help. In other words, if you're going to write in the shtar that I'm giving a deposit, or you write that he gave me a deposit, and the rest he owes me, just like that, that will not be kaina. If Ayel was not Azuzeh, which means if the case is that the person is looking for him to get his money. If the person who sold is looking to get his money, wants Badafka his money, so the fact that I have to run around and get the money is not enough. Now, let me explain this really what this is. It means like this. When a person sells something, there are two reasons why a person sells. One, because he's in business. He's in business to sell these things. Another way is he needs money. Someone needs money, so he sells his objects. Now, in the first one, which means a person is in business, and the normal seder by business is that you give on credit. So you sell him something, and he has 30 days to pay, 60 days to pay, whatever, that's what it is. And the person does that, always, he knows. If a person sells it because he needs money, then he doesn't give him 60 days. He needs the money, so he's selling it. And if the guy is not ready to give him the money, the sale is not a sale. So Mele, they say that the Rif holds, this is a Rif that was not printed in the time of the previous poskim, and it was printed later in the Shita Mechiras from Bava Metzia. They didn't know about it, and he says that in a case where there's Ayel Nofek Azuzah, if you sell something and you really want the money and you're looking for the money, giving a deposit, a down payment, and the rest he owes you will not work. Now, I want to explain this. If you look in the Gemara, it seems in the Gemara the opposite. The Gemara says like this. Gemara in Bava Metzia, Zayin, the Gemara says that Reb Shimon Gamliel in one brayse says that if you buy a field and you pay only part of the money, you have to write a shtar that the rest is Zokav Milva, that the rest he will owes him as a loan. Second brayse says that you don't have to write that. You just give him a down payment and that's enough. And the Gemara answers that if not Ayel V'Nofek Azuzah, if the guy is looking for money, then you have to write in the shtar. If he's not Ayel V'Nofek Azuzah, he's not looking for the money, you don't have to write. So l'chur, it seems the opposite of what we're saying. There's mashma that the whole shaila is, do you have to write it in the shtar? But if you write in the shtar, it's good even if it's Ayel V'Nofek Azuzah. So it seems the opposite. And that's what the Ramal paskins. But the Alter Rebbe holds, that's what the Sheiras Yehuda says in the Tzemach Tzedek, that according to the Rif and Shita Mechiras of Metzia, he says that when it says Ayel Nofek Azuzah, it works. It's only the Keinem Mitzat Shtar. But if you want the Keinem Mitzat Kesef, according to the Rif, if it's Ayel Nofek Azuzah, if the guy who sells is looking for the money, it will not help unless he pays him the whole money. And the way you pay the whole money is if you get an Or of Kabbalah, which means that the money, as far as you're guaranteed, is the money is there. But otherwise, it won't work. So according to the Alter Rebbe, this won't work. The only problem is, this is the club because Ayel Nofek Azuzah. The only problem is, why is our case considered Ayel Nofek Azuzah? Ayel Nofek Azuzah means the guy is selling it because he looks for money. In our case, it's just the opposite. He's not looking for money. Why is he selling the Chometz? Because he wants to get rid of the Isser. So why is this considered Ayel Nofek Azuzah? Again, according to the Rif, it comes out from the Alter Rebbe that according to the Rif, that if you sell not because of business or anything, you're selling because you need money, then you have to pay the whole thing or give an Or of Kabbalah, but you can't just be Yetzer by giving a deposit and make the kinyan. Why is in this case, and he says this case is Ayel Nofek Azuzah. Why is Ayel Nofek Azuzah? Why is he looking for the money? He's not looking for the money. He doesn't want money. He wants to get rid of the Chometz. Wants to get rid of the Isser. That's why. So the shot must be that I'll know it doesn't mean if you need the money or you don't need the money. The question is like this: are you in business or not? If you're in business, then you know that it takes time for him to pay. So then you know this is the kinyan, this is what you do. If you're not in it for business, then you want your money. Normally, when a person sells something and he's not in it for business, he's in it because whichever reason, whether he's selling it because he wants money, or he's selling it because of some other side, like he wants to get a business. This is not a business. And if it's not a business, he's not ready to wait. I'm selling it, I want my money. And that's the reason why the Rif holds that if it's Ayel Nofek Azuzah, it will not work. And by Chometz, this is exactly what it is. He's not looking to make money, he's not looking to sell it because he's looking for business. There's another thing here you could say, because since it's a goy and a yid, he doesn't trust the goy will give him. That's called, I want my money right away because I don't trust the goy. So the only eitzah against it is, if you have a yid, and the yid writes a document to the Rav in this case, or to anybody who's selling the chometz, that I guarantee as an order of kablan that I will pay you the rest of the money, and he makes a kinyan with the Rav or the one that's selling the chometz, so that order of kablan is giving it to the Rav, makes a kinyan with the Rav, and he's mischayev to the Rav to pay the rest, means the Rav got the whole thing. So he does the order of kablan, signs the star for the money, the rest of the money that he owes for the chometz, and the rest of the money he owes for the karka, because he gives a deposit for the chometz, gives a deposit for the rental of the karka, and he gives the Rav a star that he's taking a chrayas for it in the form of Rav Kablan, but Mele, then he got the whole money, and that's why this works. And that's what the Alter Rebbe needs, that he said you need the Rav Kablan, which automatically answers the kasha of the Shila Sholem asked the kasha, that if the Alter Rebbe is worried that he doesn't have the whole money, what does the Rav Kablan help? He doesn't understand what the Rav Kablan helps. He still don't have the whole money. But what we explained before, the Alter Rebbe doesn't mean that he needs the money and he doesn't have the money. Alter Rebbe learns that if you don't trust the goy, or it's not for sale because you're looking for business, that's the nature, you want the money. And in this case, if you give an order of kablan, then he trusts him and he knows that he's going to get the money. But then there's another shaila that some people ask when they get the Alter Rebbe shtar, which is the opinion of order of kablan. They ask a shaila that the order of kablan, which by the way, before I forget, I want to mention that the order of kablan has to be a person that's not part of the sale. In other words, the order of kablan has to sell chometz someplace else where it's sold to a different goy. Because if he's an order, he can't be an order on his own chometz. So that's that, by the way. But the order of kablan is called a reitze v'kiyume. Reitze v'kiyume means he wants it to exist. The order of kablan definitely wants the chometz not to get lost. He wants the chometz to continue existing, the chometz not to get lost. So on Pesach, he has a rotzen v'kiyume, the chometz should be there. Why does the order of kablan want the chometz not get lost? Very simple. Because the order of kablan knows that after Pesach, the way the sale is, he'll have to pay. Think he has money? He doesn't have money, but he knows he has the merchandise. He has the chometz. So if he comes to him to pay, he'll go to the goy and he'll tell the goy, I'm paying for you. I'm paying. I took a chay, I'm paying. So then you'll pay me. So he takes the merchandise. That's the answer. Some people time that if you have an order of kablan, the order of kablan has to be a very rich man because he's the order of kablan for this whole money. So if there's a sale, if you sell $1 million worth of chometz and the guy gives $100 deposit, down payment. So the order of kablan has to have enough money to pay for the rest. The answer is he doesn't have to, because he has the merchandise. He takes achrayas. He has the merchandise that was sold, and he'll take that merchandise, or he'll sell it, or he'll give it back to the people, whatever. But mainly he doesn't.